All right, Dalton, the first game of week 1 that we're previewing is actually the first game we've ever done a preview that featured an FCS team, man. We are previewing the big Thursday night clash between North Dakota State and Colorado, man. Can't wait for this one. It's the first game in year 2 for Deion Sanders. And listen, some people might be disappointed by last year. They went 4-8. They started off 3-0 on the season. So obviously going 1-8 to end the year is not great. But you got to remember, they were 1-11 the year before. So the expectations this year are, okay, make a bowl game now. At least make a bowl game. You have so much talent on both sides of the ball. You got one of the best quarterbacks in the country in Shedeur Sanders right there. You got Travis Hunter, our number 1 player in college football. So there's a lot of, and they brought in a lot of great transfers that could really help out some of their weaknesses from last year too. But the thing is with this game, even though they're an FCS team, you can't overlook North Dakota State, man. They've won 9 of the last 13 FCS national championships, and they have a new head coach in Tim Polasek. So they want to start off his tenure with a bang and beat Deion Sanders and Coach Prime in Colorado.
Absolutely. This is not going to be an easy game at all, considering the things that we don't know about Colorado, especially in the trenches. And North Dakota State, with their tradition of winning, even last year, they made the FCS semifinals and lost by 2 points, and that was considered a failure of a season.
Yeah.
It's wild, the expectations. They are going to go in there expecting to win this game, right, and expecting to beat Colorado in the trenches. Obviously, it's going to be tough, right, and they lost their leading receiver. They lost a couple other guys, but you still have two great quarterbacks in Cam Miller and Cole Payton. I'm going to get into that stuff in a bit, but no, they're fully expecting to win this game. Colorado's obviously expecting to have a much bigger season, right? Brought in a ton of more guys from the transfer portal. You got the number 1 tackle in the recruiting class in the country. You still have a Heisman potential level quarterback. You might have the best player in the country in Travis Hunter. This is going to be a really good game. There's a reason it's on Thursday night on ESPN in the primetime slot.
Can you imagine College Game Day or whatever preview show, if North Dakota State pulls this upset off? They're going to be calling for Deion's head, man.
Oh, it's going to be a PR nightmare, that's for sure.
That's why we're previewing.
But it's a game they cannot take lightly at all.
No, they can't, absolutely. And that's why, again, why we're previewing this game. It's just some pushover game for Colorado. Like, I know it's not an FBS school, but, man, this is a tough game that Colorado has, man. So what we're going to do once again, Dalton's going to take one matchup on one side of the ball. I'm going to take another matchup on the other side of the ball. You have North Dakota State's offense, man. So what should we know when Colorado is on defense in this game?
Yeah, so what you have with North Dakota State, they lost their leading receiver, but they still have 2 really good quarterbacks, and I'll get into that. Cam Miller is probably the best offensive player in the FCS. A 94.1 passing grade last season, 28 big-time throws, and 5 turnover-worthy plays. And for those we haven't mentioned this before, for those who don't know, PFF tracks every single FCS game during the year as well. We have grades on every single one of these guys, not just the big schools, North Dakota State, South Dakota State, all, I don't remember, 100-something of them.
I think around 130, but D2 stuff we do too, right?
We're starting to get into D2 now. That process is just started. I actually had to do a couple of those games a couple weeks ago.
Oh, God bless you.
It was tough. The film actually wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, though.
All right.
For the last 2 years now, we've tracked every FCS game, every single one during the season. That's kind of our thing during the week that we go through. So we have all the information on them, too. Cam Miller's really, really good, dual threat guy, cannon for an arm. I'm telling you right now, he would start for a lot of group of 5 teams at the very least. And then they have this changeup. This guy, Cole Payton, a big 230-pound Wildcat quarterback they kind of use like Taysom Hill. Both of them ran for 13 touchdowns last year, Max. Both of them. So, you have these 2 guys, and they can cause a lot of schematic problems. And the big thing that I really wanted to touch on, because, look, all offseason we've talked about Shedeur Sanders. We've talked about Travis Hunter. We've talked about Jordan Seaton and their brand-new offensive line and all this stuff. But Colorado, at the end of the day, needs to get more physical, too, right? They were last in the country in rushing grade, and their run defense grade, that's the 12th worst run defense grade in the country. And what I noticed last year, they brought in the Jackson State guys, Shedeur and Hunter, and some other guys, right, in the transfer portal. They're just collecting talent because Colorado was far and away in 2022 the worst team in the Power 5, if not the entire FBS.
Yeah.
This year, what they did in the portal was a little more targeted. Now, they got a couple receivers. I love my guy, LaJohntay Wester from FAU. But I want to talk about this Colorado front 7 and the number of guys they clearly wanted. Now, they got a couple of pass rushers too, but they clearly wanted to get more guys who could just defend the run. Like, you need Shedeur to have the football. You've got to stop the run. And these are some of the better run defenders in the country. Jalen Wester, LaJohntay's brother, a 94.2 run D grade at FAU last year at linebacker, and he can play off the edge sometimes. And it's not just, beating up the American. Very good when they played Clemson, at Clemson, dominated Illinois. They went up to Illinois and they lost by not that much, but he dominated Illinois' offensive line, which had 2 NFL offensive tackles. Guys like Chidozie Nwankwo from Houston, 4 straight years with a 70-plus run D grade. Deion Hayes and B.J. Green off the edge, also good. Ryan Buell, I'm going to tell you, from Ohio, this is an angry individual. I'll be honest with you. I don't know who at Ohio pissed him off before every game, but they did a really good job of it. These are the type of physical players that they needed to bring in here to just beef up this front seven. We're going to talk a lot during the season about like a guy like B.J. Green, who may be the best pass rusher in the Big 12, but it's actually the run defense and that list of names and a couple others too. Keaton Wade off the edge, Sam Okunlola also from Pitt, came over with Deion Hayes. They redid this front seven as well. They reworked the whole thing with the idea not only to get sacks and rush the passer, but to stop the run. I've got, 7 guys on my screen right now that they brought in who graded at least a 70 in run defense last year, right? And it's kind of that approach of, okay, we can't have any weakest links here, right? 7 guys is a lot. I mean, we talk about
an entire front seven.
That's an entire front seven. If 1 or 2 could play linebacker, they still have, Trevor Woods. They're moving down from safety to linebacker, see if he can put some weight on. He got some reps at linebacker last year. But this is the group of guys that's going to make a huge difference for the defense. We know their secondary is good. Shiloh Sanders, Travis Hunter, Preston Hodge, they're going to be able to cover. They can cover some of the best receivers and passing games in the country. But this is the list of guys that could make them a really good defense. Obviously, again, pass rush off the edge, Green and Hayes, that's going to be the big ones. But this depth of guys, Wester, Nwankwo, Buell, this is what has to happen. They have to get better at running and stopping the run. And on defense, especially on the defensive line, it's going to start with that list that we just saw in that graphic.
Absolutely, man. That run D is huge for this team this year. I understand the offensive line I'll literally talk about right after this. But that run D is going to be huge. And you mentioned all those guys, and then you mentioned those 2 pass rushers, man. B.J. Green. I actually have B.J. Green winning the Burlsworth Trophy this year, which is given to the best former walk-on in college football. He is an elite pass rusher, man, and really good in the run game, too. Deion Hayes coming in from Pitt. Love him as well. So one of the only few bright spots on that Pitt team last year. So I'm excited to see how that run D holds up against what should be a really dynamic North Dakota State rushing attack once again with those 2 quarterbacks like you mentioned before. My matchup on the other side of the ball is really the same exact thing. Physicality for Colorado is just, okay, how do you hold up now? Now, you have a brand new offensive line, basically. You give up 56 sacks last year, which is the second most in the nation. Projected to have 3 new starters on that offensive line, including a 5-star true freshman left tackle in Jordan Seaton. But, Dalton, they go up against North Dakota State, who was second in the FCS last year with almost a 41% pressure rate and was also second in the FCS with 44 sacks. And of the 11 defenders at North Dakota State that had double-digit pressures last year, 9 of them came back to school. So you have basically the same front seven as last year, one of the elite pass rushing teams in the FCS, one of the best, if not the best. That is FCS, I understand. But this new look Colorado offensive line is really going to be the key for this offense because we know Shedeur Sanders, elite quarterback, he had the 3rd best clean pocket passing grade in the country last year behind Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, the first 2 freaking picks of the draft. So when he's protected, he's elite, man. And you got Travis Hunter on the outside, LaJohntay Wester on the outside, Will Shepherd on the outside. All these guys on the outside that can win for Colorado, can they get the protection up front? And can not only that, can the offensive line create holes in the run game? Because the rushing game last year, like you mentioned before, the lowest rushing grade in the country, that's huge too, man. So that offensive line for Colorado is going to be massive this season. And I think it starts in week 1, man, against, again, a really good front seven that North Dakota State had that is coming back to school.
Absolutely. Guys like Dylan Hendricks, who had 11 sacks last year, Jake Cava, who had 8 sacks last year. And a big thing, North Dakota State, they don't blitz a whole lot. They run a boatload of stunts with their 4-man rush. It's kind of that NFL's like Robert Saleh style. We're not gonna blitz, but we're gonna stunt. We're gonna play games up front.
And a true freshman left tackle against stunts, man, like
with young players, that, or you got guys coming up from schools like UTEP and things like that. They're really patching this together at the beginning of the season. They needed to gel quick because this could cause them problems if they have errors, especially against stunts and things like that. And I'm curious too where they are in the run game. Right now they brought in Dallin Hayden from Ohio State. They brought in Isaiah Auguste, who's a big back from Arkansas. But I don't know if you saw, I believe it was like 2 weeks ago or so. Charlie Offerdahl is a guy that Deion Sanders loved, a former walk-on. He called him the starter as of like 2 weeks ago. So they've got a lot of mystery at running back too. I'm curious where the balance is and where Pat Shurmur as their new offensive coordinator is going to take this offense. How much balance is it going to look? Are we going to see a lot of 10 personnel like we did last year with 4 receivers on the field? Are we going to see more tight ends, different packages? It's really in what should look like an NFL-style offense. And now I believe we have the helmet communicators too for the quarterbacks, right? It's going to look like an NFL offense, at least we think, under Pat Shurmur. But I'm curious how much balance they're going to have. And you're right, the offensive line, just like the D-line on the other side, is going to be the big thing to watch.
It absolutely is the X factor. The trenches for Colorado is the X factor of whether or not they're going to be a fringe bowl team or a Big 12 contender. Because if you fix those two sides, man, you have the talent elsewhere to really compete for a Big 12 title, I think. But ultimately, Dalton, what happens in the first game of year 2 of the Deion era? Do you think Colorado comes out the win, or do you think that North Dakota State might pull off the shocker in week 1?
I think there could be some early difficulties in this game as they adjust to the 2-quarterback system, and especially I think Cole Payton is something they really need to look out for with this kind of Wildcat, Taysom Hill sort of packages they have in there. But I do think Colorado should take care of business. Look, to me, they have too much athletic talent to be a 4-win team again. And I like what they did in the portal this year, now getting kind of the meat and potatoes going. And I think they have too much athletic talent to lose this game. I mean, when you talk about especially receiver, Travis Hunter, Will Shepard's he was a legit SEC receiver at Vandy. You know I love LeJontay Wester. I'll be talking about him all year. I think he could get a boatload of targets and catches in this offense. And offense, he's one of the best slot receivers in the country, and they throw to the slots more than anybody. So, Hunter, they've got a lot of guys on the outside. North Dakota State has some issues when teams get the ball quickly to the outside and make them tackle in the open field. It was not their best defensive effort they've put out. Like you mentioned, all those championship teams, they've had better defenses in the past that tackle in the open field better. Not their specialty. So I think at the end of the day, no matter what, Colorado's athletes they're gonna win the day, especially at receiver. I just want to see progress in the trenches. I'm still going to take them. I'm going to take them 34-13. I do. I think they're going to make a statement here. I do. I think there could be some issues early, first quarter, maybe 20 minutes with North Dakota State's run game. But as long as they make those adjustments and they don't let the Bisons' run game take over, I think the Bisons are going to have some issues in the passing game. They lost Eli Green, their top receiver, who transferred to Iowa State. Really, really good player, too. He's going to be a fun to watch for them. But I think Colorado, I think people now in all the hype and all the arguing about, are they going to win 4 games again or this or that or whatever, they have a lot of talent. They have a ton of talent, and especially athletic talent. When you have athletes like that on the outside, you should not lose 8-9 games in a season. You should be better than that. And this is a game, 1, they have to win. Like you mentioned, if they were to lose this game, it'd be a nightmare. Yeah. And 2, I think the home crowd's going to be bumping on a Thursday night. And look, Shador's going to show us how good he is. Right, he is that good, and late in the year he was healthy last year. I think all those factors together, I'm going to take Colorado for a pretty convincing win.
Okay, I got Colorado winning this game as well. Not as convincing, but I have them winning 35-24 over North Dakota State. I agree with you, man. I think the perimeter players in both the secondary and the receiving core are going to be way too much for North Dakota State to handle. And I like North Dakota State's passing game and how good Cam Miller was last year, but they have a great secondary to go up against, right? And Travis Hunter and Preston Hodge and Shiloh Sanders and all the other guys there as well. So I think North Dakota State will throw some haymakers early and get Colorado on their heels a little bit. But I think once the second half gets going, they'll find their rhythm. And I think Shador Sanders and that offense will really find their rhythm and put up 35 points on the Bison. But that's what we got for our first week 1 preview of the 2024 college football season. Again, we're doing a live preview show of the 5 biggest games of week 1. All the Saturday and actually a Sunday game, too, that we're previewing as well. So 5 biggest games of week 1. We're doing that every single week, and also a review show on Sunday mornings live as well, going over the grades from the past yesterday and also the all the big storylines, of course, from college football over the week. That's what we got for our preview of Colorado and North Dakota State.